Welcome back to another video, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are building a face frame. We'll be using pocket screws and wood glue for that. As you can see here, it's a full overlay. These are the kitchens we actually built this face frame for. It was a full overlay slab and then a shaker kitchen. Loved how the finished product turned out. The biggest thing we're going to need is 1.25" material all the way around. So all of the verticals and the horizontals, or depending on your lingo and the woodworking space, it's rails and stiles. I like to cut everything at 1 5/16 when I first am cutting down big material. That way I have a 1/16 or a 32nd on either side that I can then cut off, because when you feed material through a table saw, even if your table saw is set at a perfect 90, if you're putting through warping material or anything cupped or bowed in any fashion, it will leave slight angle differences. So we like to cut stuff down to a more manageable size, and then we'll run it through on both sides. That way we get good, clean, square edges. Next up, we're going to plane all of our material down to 3/4 inch. If you're buying normal like 13/16 material, you'll take off a 32nd off of either side, or if you're making face frames, you can go ahead and take off that whole 1/16 on one side. Like always, we'll cut our own edges on all the material before we start pulling our tape measure on it. Here I am just cutting these stiles or the verticals at 30.5 inches. If you don't have a stop on your miter station, you can do like how I'm about to do here and cut your first one and then layer it on top of the next one. That way, even if you mess up your measurement, let's say a 64th or 100th of an inch, both of your material will be the same exact size, and that'll make things easier whenever you assemble it to make sure everything is square. I want to take this moment really quickly to say thank you to everybody that has been watching our videos. We are a small channel and we're just getting these videos posted, but we have seen tremendous growth in subscribers and likes and all that. So I just want to say thank you for that. It really means a lot. Back to the video. Whenever it comes to the layout of a face frame, I always like to make the outside rails and stiles first. So I basically create a picture frame, and then the inside design is obviously dependent on whatever you're building. On this particular cabinet, we were putting 2 drawers and then 2 doors. So we need a divider going up the middle, and that will be 30.5 minus 2.5 because it's 1.25" material on the top and bottom. So that gives us a height of 28 inches. And then the inside measurement is going to be 42.75 minus 3.75 is 39 inches. We'll take 39, divide it by 2, and that gives us 19.5 for the bottoms of the drawer openings. This will all make sense in like 3 seconds when I dry fit it all together. Like always, the stiles will go on the outside, the rails will go on the inside, so we'll create a picture frame, and then this inside material will go in here to create the design. So we have 2 stiles, 2 rails, and then our next stile, or our divider in here, will go right down the middle, and then the next 2 dividers, or rails, will go like so. Not too shabby for a dry fit face frame. As you can see here, on the far left of this vertical is exactly 42.75. So all of our math is checking out almost perfect. Sometimes what I like to do is take a pencil and mark where all of our pocket screws are going. If it's a super simple basic face frame, I won't, but this one's a little bit more intricate, so I'll just go ahead and mark on the edges. The only ones that won't get pocket screws are the 2 verticals on the far ends. Now back with the Craig Foreman. This is probably my favorite tool for drilling pocket screws. I will basically just put the material as close to the edges as I can so I can get 2 screws on either edge. And then just repeat this process on all the material. There you have it. Everything's pocket screwed. Now what we're going to need is just going to be a drill with a square bit, pocket screws, a clamp, and wood glue, and we'll be ready to start assembling this face frame. Assembly is pretty easy here. Really all you got to do is just glue up where they joint together, clamp it, and then screw it together as you'll see here. The type of clamp you use is really up to you. I really do like these clamps, so this is normally my go-to, but I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong answer whenever it comes to this specific step here. Now I've just flipped it around. I'm going to go ahead and put on the bottom rail. Same thing as the top one, 2 screws on the left, 2 screws on the right. Now all I'm going to do here is glue up the edges of this inside vertical here. In order to know where it needs to go in the center, I'll just butt it all the way up against one of the stiles, pull the measurement of what that total width is, divide it by 2, and then that'll give us where that divider needs to go. And as you can see here lightly, I do have pencil marks marking exactly on the left and the right of it, so I know right where to put it to center it in this face frame. Now without getting too fancy on anybody, we're going to do exactly what we just did 20 seconds ago. Now one thing you'll notice is, as much as possible, I try not to pick up a tape measure for repetitive measurements. So if I know that I need, let's say, an opening that's 5 inches, I'll cut a couple 5-inch blocks or spacers and use that to hold that opening to exactly 5 inches, so that I'm not wasting time by marking and then having to fight it and clamping it and all this stuff. It's so much faster and it's more accurate to use spacers like this to put on the bottom of, a face frame or whatever you're doing, rather than busting out a tape measure for a measurement that you need 6 times on one face frame. Or if you're building a whole kitchen, you're going to need this measurement like 30 or 40 times, or if it's a big kitchen, 50 or 60 times. So the blocks really come in handy and they save you a lot of time, but again, like I said, they're going to be more accurate than you putting your little tape measure in here and marking your 5-inch spot. Because let's be honest, there are so many other things that we would like to do rather than sit here and build face frames the slower way. And this is what she looks like all dolled up. She's gorgeous. The other thing we could do before we do this next step here is we could sand and prime and then top coat this face frame before we glue it on. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to just show you me attaching it. And you can just imagine what it would look like top coated before it was installed. Now this right here is super this right here is super important to make sure all of your face frames are going to stand the test of time. You got to spin them at least once. Now if this was a really big face frame, I would have had somebody else help me set it down on there, because this is important and this will make tons of work for you in the future if you mess this up. But if you can't set it within 1/4 of an inch of where it's going to go, once it's all squared up and clamped down and everything, definitely get somebody else to help you, because you'll just be making a ton of headache for yourself later down the line, because you really want your face frames to adhere well, because if they don't, you have way bigger problems. It might just be me, but I feel like most all woodworkers love to just severely over clamp everything that they can. So I'll go out of my way to try and just collect up as many. Yeah, see what? Okay. There you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments.